Wilhelm Heinrich Otto Dix was born to a working-class family in Untermhaus, now part of Gera in Thuringia, in 1891. His father was a foundry worker, his mother a seamstress. From an early age, he proved to be a very creative person, and spent part of his youth with his older cousin, a landscape artist named Fritz Eman, and at 14, began taking art classes. He worked as an assistant to the artist Karl Senf from 1906 to 1910. In 1909, at the age of 18, he left home for Saxony, specifically the Saxon School of Arts and Crafts in Dresden. Early on, he was an expressionist or Dadaist artist. Now, I'm not an art historian, but I'll try to explain what all those were. Expressionism was an avant-garde style of art that sought to portray things from a subjective sense, as in how the artist viewed the world around them, using emotions to shape their art rather than reality. Dada was, I think, an art style that intentionally made zero sense as a protest of traditional artistry or something. I don't really get it. In 1914, the Archduke of Austria and the heir to the Habsburg throne, Franz Ferdinand, was shot and killed along with his wife in Sarajevo by a Bosnian Serb nationalist. This sparked the largest and most terrible war humanity has seen. Up to this point anyways. Otto Dix volunteered for the war, then a proudly patriotic individual, where he saw action as an artillery gunner. 10 years after the war began, Dix published 50 etchings describing his experience in the war. Some are based off of sketches that he made during the conflict, others his memories, others photographs. I will not cover all 50, but if you wish to see all of them, links can be found in the description. This is probably his most famous etching, or perhaps second most famous, I'll get to that later, and the one that I'm using for the thumbnail. It depicts 5 stormtroopers, elite shock troops tasked with breaking the trench warfare stalemate, advancing under gas, as the name implies. These men are dirty, the mud clinging to their uniforms. They climb through entanglements of barbed wire, shattered trees, and assorted debris. The gas masks, with their black lenses, almost portray a lifelessness, as though they are made for war and little else. Something I only noticed while writing the script is that the leg in front appears to have a bullet wound spurting blood. Initially, I thought this was the leg of the stormtrooper, but it appears that there is another leg to the left here, which, even for an expressionist artist like Dix, just doesn't match. I think this is probably a 6th stormtrooper who had just fallen, and his comrade is crawling over his body, alive or dead is unclear. I'm unsure what this is. On the other hand, the stormtrooper with a grenade. My initial thought was that it's a knife, a bayonet, or a sword of some kind, but the pattern along it makes me think it's something else. Let me know if you have an idea of what this is. I'll give you 10 seconds to count how many bodies are present in this image. By my count, there are 11. The bodies are contorted in every direction. One appears to be shielding his eyes from the flare. Another, with a skull-like face and a bone for a leg, appears to be crawling towards the point of view. A third lies face down with a hand stretched out like claws. Another is half buried, only his legs sticking out. This one in the top right seems to have bulging eyes and to be wielding a bone like a club. In the bottom left, I can't even tell what that is. Is it a legless torso with the head buried in the mud, or is the top of its head broken off at the top here? There's another that appears to have melted into the mud, indistinct from the sea surrounding it. I think this one is too. All around the cacophony of corpses, wooden stakes hold up layers upon layers of barbed wire, entangling together to create a nigh impassable barrier. These entanglements were used to great effect in the war, despite their fragility, as they could be replaced very easily. You either hoped your artillery or tanks paved the way through the wire, or you tried to climb over it. And due to the fact that there was a war going on, bodies were often never removed from no man's land. In fact, if you dug around today in the battlefields of World War I, you'd almost certainly find a body very quickly. Not that I'd recommend doing that. Also, after writing the script, I found out that the name, which translated literally means high dead man, is actually the name of a section of the Verdun battlefield called Dead Man's Hill in English, and Le Mortholm in French, which was an extremely bloody hill that took 3 months for the Germans to capture. This one is simple but effective. It's a skull, if that wasn't obvious, with worms and maggots wriggling around and in it. What appears to be tufts of hair still stick to the dome. There's even a thin mustache still. The scattering of dirt makes it look like it's been freshly pulled from the ground. Very basic, but very effective. Soldiers were often wounded by the war, especially in the face, seeing as that was the only vulnerable part of your body when peeking out of a trench. Even those who survived such wounds were often left horrifically mutilated by the war, with treatments on the field, namely stitches, not properly accounting for flesh lost and leaving disfigurements. Other wounds were impossible to really treat on the front line, so they were left with gaping holes in their faces, which, on a side note, is one of the most terrifying things to me. I just can't fathom being alive and otherwise healthy, but with a massive gaping hole in my face I just have to live with. Anyway, in response to these disfigurements, the practice of plastic surgery was rapidly modernized to be capable of reconstructing faces. I believe this is what is happening to this fellow here. He's very clearly horribly mangled, with an eye missing, part of his nose left a gaping hole, and perhaps some kind of burns on the left side of his face. However, he clearly seems to have some work being done on him, such as his forehead, which seems to have some kind of skin graft going on. It's already a very eerie body horror art piece, but this is probably a real person who really had wounds this bad and lived, which I think just makes it even more horrifying. This one is my personal favorite. As the title suggests, it depicts a wounded man in a shell hole. His eyes are wide with terror, and his mouth is agape. His helmet is falling off of his head, and he clutches at his chest tightly. His left arm appears to be twisted and broken, while a black stain, probably blood, covers his stomach. This artwork vividly portrays the sheer terror of the war, the unimaginable horrors humanity has inflicted upon itself. Nikola Tesla probably never said, "You may live to see man-made horrors beyond your comprehension," in 1898. He was referring to industrialized, totally impersonal warfare, which was made reality not even 15 years later. This one is also very eerie. A skeletonized corpse sits against a dirt wall, his clothes ripped and torn. Dirt and worms wriggle across every inch of bone. The figure is contorted, one leg seemingly fallen off. The skeleton still holds his rifle on his shoulder. It appears as though the man simply died at this post and was never moved from it, remaining until his flesh was totally decomposed into the earth. Something that I really love, in quotation marks, very heavy quotation marks, about this one and Shadow is that fusion of bone and earth, as I pointed out with the worms and dirt along the bones. War is extremely dirty, and I believe this style really encapsulates that dirtiness very well. This is the one that I mentioned earlier that could be Dix's second most famous etching from the set. I say that because anytime that this specific etching is brought up anywhere, someone inevitably compares it to SCP-106. Anyway, this work shows a man, presumably suffering from shell shock, better known as PTSD now, shrouded in darkness, but with a maniacal grin and white eyes peeking through the blackness. Beyond him lies the ruin of a town, with a broken down windmill standing above the rest. The figure is extremely well done, the shadowing is used to such good effect that it is genuinely unsettling seeing that grin peering through, along with the scratchy coloring. But honestly, I think the background isn't quite as good. It's much too smooth and bright. The brightness does make the figure stand out, which I suppose was probably intended, but I still think it's too smooth. But hey, I'm not an artist, nor am I an art critic, so who am I to judge? Still solid, and quite creepy. So, originally there was going to be another piece titled Gas Tota, or Gas Dead, that I was going to cover, and I had the script written out, but I saw this one, and I guess I somehow skimmed past it, and I didn't really have very good commentary on Gas Tota, so I'm using this one instead. All I really had to say for the other one is that I thought the bloated and blackened bodies were very eerie, and that was about it. Anyway, this one. I don't really know where to begin. I'll start with the obvious. This is a soldier in a stout helm. He appears to be screaming from, as the title suggests, a bullet wound, and there's a hand, maybe of a doctor, or even a comrade trying to treat him. As for the rest of the etching, I have no clue what I'm looking at. So, I think this soldier is missing a jaw. His tongue is way too visible to merely be agape, and there's really not any sort of jaw that I can see below him. To the right, I think this is a bucket, or maybe a helmet upside down, and there's a hand here holding it. Now, I have no clue what this is, or what's spilling into the bucket. If I had to take a guess, it almost looks like the top of a head, with the top of the head removed. There's what I think is an ear there, and what it looks like brain matter spilling out. I'm unsure if that's what it is, and also this looks more like a jacket sleeve from a uniform more than anything, so I don't know. Don't even get me started on the background. I think there's hills here, maybe a bed or a seat here, otherwise I got nothing. If anyone can point out anything else, again, let me know in the comments. It's a very unsettling piece. I still think Visceral Terror is the creepiest, but this is definitely up there now. So far, all of the art that I've shown has either been the action of combat or the aftermath, but this one shows what it actually was like to fight in the trenches. Two men, scruffy and disheveled, are crawling along the trench floor with buckets in their mouths. They grimace and appear almost rat-like. As the title says, these are food fetchers, trying to gather and bring back food for the men deployed on the front. Beyond them lies no man's land, hills and craters of mud. Trees, shattered by artillery, periodically reaching the sky, and broken down barbed wire entanglements are near this opening that they are crawling past. A skull peeks out from behind a small crevice, and a skeleton lies a bit further back. What looks to be a wall with a doorway or window sits obscured by earth, and a building sits sinking even further back. A lake has formed, probably of rainwater and blood, and further out still, the sun rises, rays outstretched. Beyond the horrors of battle is also the horrors of World War I logistics. Soldiers needed food to eat, water to drink, commanders needed to deliver messages to and fro, and all of these had to be done by hand, by soldiers, even if there are easier ways. Trucks can't just drive across the mud to the front not only because of the terrain, but also they could easily be shot at by small arms and artillery. Communications were difficult too. Radio existed, but was still in its infancy and was unreliable and bulky, at best. And the more reliable telephones and telegraphs could easily be cut by saboteurs and artillery, so men, sometimes animals, were used as runners to deliver messages between commanders, famously shown in a pretty good film 1917. This art excellently depicts what it was like to be in such a role. If Schädel and Toter Sappenposten depicted the merging of carcass and earth well, this one really hammers that in. These two half-decayed corpses are shown in a close-up, and they almost look like what we would call zombies. The one on the left has an expression almost like a macabre laughter. There's flesh, stripped from places, and what flesh does remain is sagging off. Teeth are missing, and there appears to be something growing or stuffed into the eye sockets. Not sure what. On the right, the top lip is peeling upwards, revealing the gum beneath. And also juxtaposing the faux laughter of the left face is this almost terrified look on the right face. The nose is crooked too. It's almost like the force of some kind of blast stretched these parts of the body out of place. One of the eyes is melting and sliding out of its hole. The other socket is empty. There's still hair stuck to the head of this one. On this body too, flesh has been stripped off in places. Around the neck is a dog tag. I can't read all of it, but I can make out Unteroffizier Müller and Köln. So this is a non-commissioned officer named Müller from Cologne. Well, one of them is. I don't think we would want their mothers trying to identify them in this state. Again, like the other two I mentioned, this one makes heavy use of the decayed corpse imagery, but here's a lot more visceral, which I think it's a different effect than the other two. Is it better or worse? I don't know. I kind of feel like the somberness of Toter Sappenposten is eerier in the long run, it lingers more, but hey, art is subjective. If this one gives you nightmares for weeks, but the other you forget in an hour, that's how it is. After the war, Dix continued his artistry. He became a leading figure in the New Objectivity movement, which I give up on trying to explain these art movements. And he went on to create a lot of other artwork beyond his 50 etchings in Der Krieg. However, that collection was not his only work titled Der Krieg. He also went on to create the triptych, or I guess quadtych, titled Der Krieg as well. It consists of 4 panels. The left side shows soldiers marching in a line into the trenches. The right side shows a man, carrying another man, away from a blazing inferno over other bodies. The bottom image shows bodies lined up in a coffin. And the center shows a gas mask-clad soldier huddling under a cloth in the middle of a ruined trench. Flooded with rainwater, walls falling apart, bodies utterly eviscerated into chunks of red meat, and a skeletonized body entangled in steel, pointing forward like death himself. This piece is also genuinely incredible. But I wanted to focus on his etchings, and I only decided to make this video about a week before Halloween, when I hope to get it uploaded, so I encourage you to go and explore this piece yourself. Maybe next Halloween I'll come back to it, and hopefully with better art analysis skills. Anyway, when the Nazi Party took over Germany in 1933, his artwork was labeled as degenerate, and he was sacked from his position as professor at the Dresden Academy. His work, including another piece titled Der Schützengräben, or The Trench, was exhibited in a few degenerate art exhibitions, such as the one in Munich, 1937. You might have noticed the trench is in black and white, and that is because the original piece is lost, probably destroyed. Dix himself was allowed to continue painting inoffensive landscapes, was briefly arrested under suspicion of plotting to assassinate Hitler, and when the war came to Germany in 1944 and 45, he was conscripted into the Volkssturm. He was captured by the French and released in 1946. He continued painting depictions of post-war suffering and was recognized by both West and East Germany, the former who awarded him the Order of the Merit of the Federal Republic of Germany, and the latter unsuccessfully nominating him for the National Prize of the German Democratic Republic. He died of a stroke on July 25th, 1969. Happy Halloween, everyone! I had the idea to make this video a few months ago, but progress is a bit slow on my current videos, and I figured that this video should be easy to edit, so if everything went right, it should be Halloween and this video is uploaded. I'm working on the next real video still. I will not be giving a precise date for its release, but it is coming. If you enjoyed this video, then like the video and subscribe for more history content. Although, if you're here for the art history, then don't expect any more. I'm not really big on art history. I just happen to really like these pieces, and I wanted to talk about them. Anywho, see you all later.